Hey dudes, and welcome back to the Bantz. As always, I am your host, the Bantz. And here we are, we finally reached the weekend. I hope you all are enjoying your Saturday, and hopefully to go along with it, we have our second and final What's Happening in Fashion for the week, so let's just get right into it. And first up, of course, we have our headlines for the day. And in our first headline of the day, I just wanted to cover real quickly one of the most interesting and bizarre collaborations I have seen in probably years, and that is the Beams Japan and Ziploc bags collaboration. Yeah, I got nothing. Now, this collection is by no means super extensive. It's only roughly about 10 pieces or so, and it's all made up of only accessories. We have bags, of course, Ziploc bags. But then also we have a few other interesting things, such as a couple hats, an umbrella, and even an apron, which, if this collection wasn't already bizarre enough, just adds further to it. And I have to say, with seeing all these pieces here, I'm actually fairly impressed with how they all turned out. Now, obviously these pieces aren't actually made out of Ziploc bags, they're just made out of materials and designs to replicate that look and feel, but I really gotta say that Beams absolutely nailed the aesthetic here. And although personally I would never wear any of these pieces myself, mainly because just that whole clear see-through clothing look really has never been and will never be my style. If that is sort of your thing, then I don't see why you wouldn't be interested in these, especially seeing as that the prices aren't terrible for what they are. The only really unfortunate thing to come out of this is that I can guarantee 120% that the people that are buying this are gonna more than likely be those stupid trend-humping fuckers that are all about fashion being anti-fashion, as is so in style nowadays, I guess. Just wearing this to fashion weeks to just be edgy or cool or pretentious or just fucking retarded like they normally are. But then in our second and far more interesting headline of the day, Levi's has finally started to roll out their idea of making laser etched custom denim, and I think this is a fantastic idea. So for those of you out there who are already denim heads, and for those of you out there who may have just stumbled on a video once or twice of a pair of jeans being distressed by a laser machine, you'll know that lasering denim is by no means anything new. However, for those of you who didn't know, there are actually a bunch of different methods that major companies can use out there to distress their denim products. There is, of course, chemical solutions such as bleaching to help wear down or lighten up the denim itself. There is the sandblasting methods, where they will either take a high pressure sand blaster and just hit the jeans with them, or put a bunch of stones into a tumbling machine with the denim to help just give it that beat up feel. And then of course there is this method here with lasering, where they will lay out a pair of denim on a rack, then put a program into the cutting machine, and the lasers will take off fine layers of the top of the denim to give them that worn in or of course distressed look. So you may be wondering that if this technology isn't new, then why am I bringing it up now? Well, that's because of the way they're implementing it, and that is by allowing customers themselves to customize the distressing, the fading on the denim as they please. Now, if you follow denim at all on Instagram and you happen to follow Amy Leverton, aka Denim Dudes, she showed off a couple of videos of her actually distressing not only a pair of jeans, but a jean jacket as well, using Levi's new custom machines. Basically how it works is the laser etching machine has a touchscreen on it with a picture of your denim already laid out on it, and you can go all over the denim, go up, go down, zoom in, zoom out, and add any kind of lightening or whiskering or even some major distressing such as holes into the denim. And then once you're all set to go, you put it into the machine, and the machine lasers the denim right in front of your eyes. And even though this machine being used in LA is currently only on an invite-only basis, if Levi's does in fact tend to roll this out to more stores all over the country and the world, I think this is a really, really great idea. Just from a business standpoint alone, I think this is a fantastic idea. Not only because customizing denim will obviously be more expensive for the customer than just buying a regular pair of denim, but also because you're actually giving the customer the designs and the hands-on to make something unique for themselves, which is definitely something more and more people are wanting nowadays. There's also the environmental aspects on this, which is one of the main reasons why so many companies have started switching over to laser technology, is that it really reduces the harm that denim has on the environment as opposed to those chemical processes or those sandblasting processes. Those two processes also leading to a lot of major health risks and factors to those using them out on the manufacturing floors. But this is a catch-22, unfortunately, because even though this laser technology does greatly reduce the health risks that are associated with the other two processes, the fact that those other two processes aren't implemented anymore means that there are less people working on the manufacturing floor, because laser technology can all be done pretty much by one person. But now I'm just kind of rambling. I've kind of segued a little bit too far away from what the main topic is here. And so let's go back to that. What do you guys think? If you had the option to customize a pair of denim, would you do it? Especially if it was really just done right in front of you? Would you be more inclined to do something like this if it was in a brick and mortar that was right down the street? Or are you just kind of a fan of doing it yourself and have another take on it? Whatever your opinion, I'd like to know. I'd like to know what you guys think. Okay, and now let's move on to our art stories for the day. And first up, Kima Lenaghan showed off some of her newest illustrations, and these are just super well done, ranging from the most simplistic to some actually very nice levels of depth. If you're a fan of illustration at all, I would definitely check some of these out. Then, and I'm completely sorry in advance for butchering this name, artist Baatarzorig Batjargal showed off some of his newest works, and these are super interesting, mixing historical and pop culture references with a traditional Mongolian painting style. There's just so much going on in these paintings. They're super vivid, super creative, and if any of that sounds interesting to you, I'd definitely take a look at these. And lastly, the Beinart Gallery in Australia showed off some works from their newest show, the Botanical Bestiary, focusing obviously on just different types of flora and fauna. So if those sort of things in all forms of illustration, painting, and sculpture sound interesting to you, then I definitely check out some of these as well. Alright, and now moving back into our fashion section for the day. First up, Japanese brand Ambush showed off their Fall/Winter 2018 collection, and honestly, I wasn't that impressed. Starting off with the apparel here, some of the details in these designs, such as the distressing or the aesthetics, are fairly interesting and overall pretty well done. The highlight being, of course, that multicolored, multi-laced hoodie that you see a couple times in this collection. However, with that said, most of the pieces here, including those pieces that do have some of these aesthetics and details on them, tend to be fairly drab and boring and plain underneath. But then moving on to the accessories here, I find myself even more disappointed still. You know, for a brand that really paved the way over a decade ago for really interesting, be it vibrant or maximalized or just crazy in general accessories, I'm really not seeing a lot of that here. In fact, not only do these pieces not feel interesting, but a lot of them feel like really abrupt rip-offs. Let me give you a few examples. That bunny pendant there feels a lot like a Jeff Koons sculpture. Those crushed soda cans and soda tabs are stuff that Dr. Romanelli has done close to a decade ago. And then we have those medical pills and capsules, which is definitely something that Damien Hirst has made very popular in his sculptures, if you want to call them that. If there is a silver lining here, it's the fact that these pieces are actually well designed. They're very detailed, they're very high quality, but even so, the shadow cast by just the copying of these designs is just way too big to overlook. For a brand that has always been as crazy and inspirational as Ambush, to kind of sink to this level is just utterly disappointing, and I really hope they get some of their creative drive back very soon. Then Indice Studios showed off their Spring-Summer 2019 collection, and I found it pretty interesting. Taking a huge shift from the color blocking they did in their last collection, we see a much more toned down contemporary style among all these pieces, and in doing so I see this lookbook as being much more wearable because of it. But what really makes this collection, this lookbook, so interesting here is how Indice has taken certain silhouettes, certain materials out of their natural elements and made them look and feel a completely different way. Now let me explain. For example, normally when you think denim as a material, you think of it in the form of jeans, in the form of a jacket, things along those lines. But here instead they take the material and put it in a much more technical use, somewhat resembling something you'd see from Raw Research by Aitor Thrope. And then on the flip side, we see these much more synthetic materials that you would see in techwear pretty much everywhere, taken down, ripped apart, and then thrown into a patchwork piece, which of course is something you almost never see done. And the weirdest thing about all of these pieces, ranging from the highly technical pieces all the way down to the more Western heritage patchwork pieces, is that when combined into this collection, don't feel like any of that at all. Instead, with all these elements, all these aesthetics, all these silhouettes, the only thing I get out of this collection is contemporary wear. Sure, it is a much more hybrid of contemporary wear, especially in certain pieces, but it still all feels like contemporary overall. And I really have to give it to Indice Studios here for being able to take all these ideas, these designs, and still make them all feel cohesive in the end. It really must have been difficult to do, but really the reward pays off in this lookbook here. And lastly, Japanese brand Anei showed off their debut season lookbook for Spring-Summer 2019, and I honestly think they did a fantastic job here. So first up, what is Anei? Well, it's the brainchild of designer Yu Haishi, who used to be a pattern maker for both Visvim and Y3. So with that knowledge in mind, if you kind of have an idea of how those two brands would intermingle, then you kind of get the gist of what this collection is. We definitely see a lot more of those drapey silhouettes, those layered silhouettes that you'd expect from somebody who used to work alongside Yohji, but at the same time, instead of seeing them in black, we're seeing them in a lot more bright and pastel colors here, which is really refreshing and perfect for summer wear. But then on the other hand, we're seeing a lot of these Hiroki inspired designs, these Japanese aesthetics, although instead of using his normal color palettes of all over prints and bright colors and indigo, we're seeing a lot of use of black and white instead. So it almost feels like what Yu Haishi did here was take both these styles that he knows so well and then just flip integral parts of their ideologies while adding some of his own flair, and I think it turned out pretty incredible in my opinion, especially for being a debut collection. So all in all, congrats to Yu Haishi, good luck on Anei, and I'm really excited to see what this brand brings to the table in the future. And finally, let's move on to our articles for the day. And first up, Highsnobiety did a very nice, albeit brief, overview on Riccardo Tisci, talking a little bit about his history, his rise to fame, and where he is now. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about the designer or about history of fashion in general, I definitely give this a read. Then Heddles did a very nice and pretty in-depth overview on Shibori, the Japanese indigo dyeing method, giving a little bit of history on it as well as context, and then going over the many different types of Shibori as well. So if you've ever been interested more in the material aspect of fashion, I would definitely look into this. And lastly, we have another overview, this time from Grailed, who did a very nice and in-depth job going over Japanese legendary jewelry designer Goro, talking about his history, his inspirations, his works, and so on. So if you've ever been interested in really high quality, really high-end jewelry, then I would definitely give this a read as well. Alright guys, and with that we've reached the end of our second and final whiff for the week. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and as per usual, if you want to read any of the articles I talked about today or see any photos I wasn't able to include, I've linked all the articles I've talked about in the description down below. And if you are new here, then welcome. We do these what's happening in fashion videos twice a week at the beginning and end of the week, plus another occasional video here and there. So if you're interested, feel free to subscribe. Otherwise, if you just have any questions, comments, concerns, or even just want to talk about fashion in general, feel free to hit me up in the comments. I am always willing to talk fashion. And once again, thank you guys for watching these videos and supporting my content. I hope you all have a good rest of your weekend, and as always, until next time.